Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Afif Ghannoum on the line, and he's CEO and founder over at CPG Radar. Afif, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Afif. So lots to talk about here today. So I definitely want to get into CPG Radar, how you came up with the idea and really what you're up to and what the business is doing. But I guess just to get us kicked off here, I see the word founder here. Were you always an entrepreneur? Where'd all that start for you?
Yeah, so it started, my background is as a biotech attorney, and I was working as a young lawyer at a big corporate law firm. And my dad, who's a scientist, had this really cool invention in the biotech world, and he was excited about it. He was going to have a company built around it. Some guys had approached him, and I was like, oh, that's great. I'm kind of slaving away as a lawyer. And a few months later, somehow it came up. I was like, how's that going? And it turned out the whole thing was based on his invention, his research, and he ended up owning like 1% of the company. And I kind of realized he'd been hoodwinked. So I thought, here I am, like a corporate lawyer. I'm doing this stuff for other people, and my own dad is getting, ripped off. So that was in the middle of the Great Recession. And so I said, look, I'd rather take a risk on us. And so we started first an oral care company, built that up, sold products in about 27,000 stores, licensed IP to, global CPG company. And then we got into the probiotic space with a company called Biome. And so once I transitioned out of that company, one of the things I had noticed was that innovation across, when I say CPG, I mean consumer packaged goods. Any of these products, you increasingly see like science-backed, clinically proven. You'll see terms like that. But the reality is for a lot of these products, the way ingredients are chosen or clinical trials are designed, things like that, is what I call design by anecdote, where someone's seen a cool ingredient at a trade show, or they used to work with this guy over here and he's got this, cool clinical trial, capability, but it's not really data driven. So CPG Radar, what we've done is gather one of the largest, if not the largest, curated sets of information around different products, like the ingredients, the claims they make, the formats, like are they a gummy, are they a capsule, things like that. And what we do is we feed that data into an AI model. So very quickly, we're able to ask the AI all sorts of things from, market trends, like what kind of products are using gummies and, heart health, to, hey, is my formulation actually unique? And that sounds like something that should be pretty easy, but when, especially in vitamins and supplements, probably daily new products come on into the market. So it is really hard manually to keep on top of everything. So that's what we ended up doing is we use data and AI to really figure out innovation trends, formulation opportunities, things like that to make, better products that help all sorts of people.
Now, you mentioned some, previous success with some other businesses and companies that you launched. When you came upon this idea, how did you know this was the one that you were going to launch? Because as entrepreneurs out there, we get lots of ideas, lots of different ways we can go. Like, how did you know that this was going to be the one you were going to spend some time on?
I think the reality is you never know until you ring the register. Like, are you actually able to sell something to someone?
Yeah.
So my approach really is to bet wide, but bet small, right? Take chances, see if something works. And listen, once in a while you try something, you're like, oh, okay, it didn't quite go as I expected. But then you don't commit so much that if you pivot away from it, it's not, disastrous. So I never took the approach of like, this is the idea of betting the family house on it. Entrepreneurship's very difficult. So I think, it's just like any sort of investment. It's not necessarily about the upside. Like any of these ideas, if they hit, are huge, but it's more about protecting the downside.
Yeah, I get that. And this is a terrible example. And I've only been like once in the last, 6 years, but I was at the horse races last Sunday, Afif. No, that's what I bet small and I bet across the law. I know it's a terrible tie-in, but I couldn't help myself.
No, it's totally true.
but it was true. Oh, that's great. So I want to go further into CPG Radar. Like, what do you think makes this like truly unique from maybe some other, not necessarily competition, but what do you think it makes just unique in the marketplace in general? What do you think makes it unique?
Well, what I think makes it unique is, now AI is such a buzzword, right? I'll talk to companies and they say, oh, we're working on our AI strategy. And I think that kind of misses the mark sometimes, because that's like now me saying to you, we want to get into the internet, right? Like that kind of sounds ridiculous, right? But the reality is the internet enables so many things we do every day: video conferencing, email, research, you name it, right? So AI, I think where we're emerging, and what I really trying to explain is AI is a conduit to what you're really trying to accomplish. Because at the end of the day, I say this to companies: you don't care about AI. You care about doing whatever you're working on more efficiently, more quickly, and much more deeply than you could manually do, right? That's the power of AI. So what really makes us unique is the data we have. We've actually curated it ourselves. So we collect data from all over the world on everything from clinical trials being run to products. And when we gather data on a product, we're literally breaking it down to like, what are even the secondary ingredients on the package, right? So we're trying to get every little bit of data on every product out there, so that when we're doing the analysis, it's really, really granular. The other thing kind of sets us aside is I think there's a little bit of a misnomer that AI is a little bit set it and forget it, right? Oh, I just asked AI and it'll give me what I need. The problem with that is twofold. One, AI is still, even like what we have is called a closed garden model, where we only train on our data. But even then, AI is not perfect, right? Like contextually, sometimes it won't get things right. So one of my favorite examples of that is we were working on a project for an ingredient company. And one of the things we're able to do is quickly show a company that they're trying to get their ingredients into, here's exactly which ingredient can optimize this company's product. And here's how. Here's the new claims they'll get. Here's suggested marketing language. Here's the ingredients to use, right? Like this can save them sometimes months, but definitely weeks of time and effort. But AI sometimes will suggest wonky things, right? So like, for example, it suggested, hey, this company, you could create a 50 plus women's fertility product. Well, vast majority of 50 plus women I know continue to be fertile is not high on their, agenda, right? So that's something where how we address that is we actually have a team of PhDs that look at every single output that comes out to confirm it actually is accurate and it makes sense. So I think that human layer is going to continue to be really important. So really differentiators is, proprietary data set that we've curated, but also this human layer of the scientists that are making sure what our outputs coming out of AI are accurate and, contextually right.
So whenever I know somebody's, and even before AI, so just when you're getting into old-fashioned research, whenever you start, digging through a ton of data, I feel like just surprises, or whether it's trends or otherwise, like tend to come up. And so now that you've been, training your own models and doing your own research, anything surprise you? And like trends or otherwise that you found just on this journey, anything surprising?
What's most surprising to me is the amount of deep science that actually goes into these products. And what I mean by that is we will do these things where we will look at the clinical trial landscape for a specific ingredient, and we'll just look, what are people studying, right? Because why that's great to do is you'll see that maybe not today, but like 2-3 years from now, you'll see like unique combinations of ingredients. You'll see commodity ingredients, things like coffee, that all of a sudden, wow, these guys are running clinical trials for, all sorts of health conditions, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
A supplement, right? So it allows us to really be able to have, a futurist look at what is probably coming down the pipeline, in products and ingredients. The other thing is, it's funny, like you'll see trends and then you'll see counter trends, right? So melatonin was a huge one. Obviously, everyone and their mother started
oh my
melatonin
God.
products.
I forgot who the comedian was. You can do the melatonin? No, that was funny. It's like, yes, I've tried it. I still can't sleep. Okay, go ahead.
Right. And so what we noticed when we looked at the types of marketing claims sleep companies are making now with sleep products, a lot of them are specifically saying non-melatonin. You know what I mean? Like they kind of been a backlash against melatonin, so people are calling out. The other thing that's just continuously getting more and more coverage are clean ingredient callouts. Like it used to be, you know, when I ran an oral care company, you would get, I would say, like a fringe part of your audience that really didn't like that there was a paraben in the formula, and parabens are really good at killing pathogenic organisms. So like, you know, bacteria that'll, you know, could make you sick, right? So you put it in a mouthwash so it keeps you safe. Well, there was, you know, this is 2010-ish. You would have a few people that say, well, I'm not going to buy it because there's parabens. But the science was strong, safe ingredient. Now, I'd say it's almost the majority of people are really particular about what is in the product. They really want to know. So
a more sophisticated consumer, yeah.
Well, and they may be more sophisticated, but they're being told this is important. Now, the problem with that is sometimes it's over the top, right? When you're selling a product, you know, perception is reality a lot of times. So it's like, you know, I'm a Diet Coke fiend. The way people talk about, you know, the sweeteners in Diet Coke, like I should have dropped dead of cancer many months ago, right? But, you know, the
not funny. It's nothing to laugh at, but you made me laugh. It's good. Go ahead.
But like the perception is that, you know, the sweeteners in diet sodas are not good for you, right? So what you've seen is the emergence of products that are like better for you sodas, like, you know, the Olipops of the world that are just on fire because consumers have a real need. Like take that brand. That brand, prebiotic soda, you know, 5 or 6 years ago when brands like that were launching, I think people thought this is very fringe. Like how many people are going to pay, you know, $3 plus a can for, you know, it's not even calorie free. That brand's going to do $500 million this year in sales, right?
Wow.
So, and their pitch is essentially better for you soda, right? So there are these trends that now where they were either maybe the secondary claims that you'd see on a package, like gluten-free, soy-free, you know, organic. Now they're almost being elevated, you know, further up the packaging. That's almost the main selling point.
You know what? Now that you say that, I've noticed that. Now that you say that, when I'm looking at a bunch of different things, so it's almost like as their marketing team is doing their analysis and seeing why people are buying it, moving up the chain. It's interesting.
100%. So one of the things we're able to do is, you know, it came up today. There was a product that a company's launching, and they're like, well, should we pick this term or should we pick that term? We were able in literally 5 minutes to look at 500 products in that category and say 49% of brands are using this term, you know, X percent of this brand are using that term, like, and then we can ask AI, like, what would be the opportunity for differentiation on these claims, right? So that analysis usually for, you know, an innovation team to do or a marketing team to do.
And you said that was in 5 minutes. What would that have taken before? Like, what would that have taken?
Weeks. The problem is, you know, how do you organize data when you have someone look at you? Yeah, well,
and then biases, maybe some biases or something's missed. Like, yeah, so it's complex.
Well, there's a couple of things going on. One, if I tell a project manager, go find all the brands making similar claims. The reality is most people, they have maybe 10 or 20 competitors in their mind that they want to go check. So that's bias number one. The second is what do they use to organize it? An Excel spreadsheet. So I can't tell you how many times we talk to a company that's just drowning in tabs and tabs of data, and they're like, I don't know, where was that claim over? Whereas we're able to take all that data, ingest it, and spit out and tell you, hey, here are the gaps, here are the white spaces. Now, taking it even further, we do a lot of things like ingredient heat mapping. So we can literally tell a company, like, here are the 5 ingredients you have in your formula. And I'll give you a cool example of even past that. But we can say those 5 ingredients, we show them a gigantic heat map and show them in market, here are all the other products that have some of those ingredients, none of those ingredients, you know, and you can very quickly see, is it actually a unique formula or do we need to go back to the drawing board? Where it gets really cool is a lot of times what we're seeing now is a company will come to us and say, hey, can you help us figure out, is our formula unique? And we'll come back and go, actually, it's too unique. You have a couple of ingredients here that if you strip out, you're not losing any of these claims. But one company doing a global launch, we were able to cut out over $1 million in cost of goods sold because they didn't need at least one of the ingredients, you know? So that's kind of the power of not just data, but synthesis of that data. It's that twofold. It's not just about AI. It's not about the data. It's, how do you marry them and get an output that's actually actionable?
What type of companies, obviously CPG, but what type of companies in terms of size or otherwise, like where should they be at before they maybe are a good fit to get the most value out of working with CPG Radar? Like, is it a size? Is it a volume of sales? Is it where are they at?
So what's funny is when we were launching, going back to your original question, like how do you know this is the idea to go with? We didn't know if this was going to really appeal to like startup companies that were trying to get their first formulas going, or, the more sophisticated guys. So what we found is 90% of our customers are massive companies, and they have huge internal innovation teams. What they don't have is more time, right? Because it's just one project after another is, going over to the innovation team or the R&D team or the product development team. And it's just, that plate is only so big. So what we're able to do is step in and, really extend that bandwidth. I'll give you a simple example. One of the things that's increasingly important is making sure that the science behind these products is really sound, right? But what that entails then is pulling up the studies, making sure you have all the studies, and then interpreting, like, what the hell is this thing saying, right? So one of the things we do is we instantaneously take a study, we summarize it into, here are the claims the study's about, and by the way, here's a summary of the quality of the study design. Because, sometimes you'll get these studies that sound great, and then you realize, well, it was done on 10 people. It's not really that robust of a study, right? So that process we do work for companies where all we do is summarize and point out, the opportunities for more rigorous science based on what the studies are saying.
And so for the startup that's out there, let's talk just a little bit about that for a moment. Like how do these type of insights, how can they help them, or how have they used it in the past? You told me the large enterprise, but what about for the startups? How have they used it?
Yeah, so startups use it in many of the same ways that investors actually use it, right? Because that's another niche of the market that we weren't really looking for, but kind of emerged. And what
Interesting. When you say investors, are you talking about like VCs? Are you talking about like that side?
Venture capitalists, private equity firms, like even strategic buyers, right? So
I wasn't thinking in that direction either, but then once you just said it, a light bulb went off. Like, of course they'd want access. Because
think about it. Like most of these guys, even if they have an expertise in a category, these are massive categories. Like there aren't thousands of products, there are thousands of companies, right? So their challenge is, wow, this is a really cool company. Their sales are really growing. But their real challenge is, do they actually have a defensible moat around what they're doing? Or are there 10 other guys coming, that are doing clinicals right now in the massive companies that are going to wipe these guys out in 2 years, right?
Wow.
So it's very hard for them to get a real sense of how unique is this? And then the other critical thing, especially for the more sophisticated investors and financial buyers, is how rigorous is the substantiation behind what they're saying? Because, the road is littered with companies that, built sometimes to hundreds of millions in sales, and then, the regulators or class action lawsuits destroyed it because the reality is they were saying things they could not substantiate with the science. So for investors, being able to like efficiently understand, is this actually differentiated? And also, how rigorous is the underpinning of the science? That's very valuable to them. The other thing is sourcing, right? Like, what companies should we even be aware of that are doing unique things, right? So that's kind of the investor use case. On the startup side, where we get the most exposure to startup is more in a venture studio setting where they're trying to rinse and repeat and build many brands and many products. And so in that scenario, they're trying to understand, like, they have a thesis, they think, either around an ingredient or they want to go into a specific category. How can we stand out in the market? Should we even go into this market? Things like that. Or they have a prototype formula. And again, just like, any company of any size, like, how differentiated is our formula? We're thinking about these claims. Are we going to actually stand out? Things like that.
Yeah, that makes total sense for a venture studio too, because once they figure it out or once they have that, they can take that learning and apply it to more and more things that they want to do, and then the trends just become more significant for them to think about their whole portfolio of what they're trying to do. If they're going to go deeper in a particular niche, if that niche is not where they need to be, they can make a lot of decisions from the macro level and get micro. So that's interesting.
Yeah, honestly, it's really fun because data can go a million ways, and it's kind of your imagination.
Fantastic. Well, Afif, man, this has been a lot of fun getting to know more about what you're doing over at CPG Radar. If somebody's listening to this or watching this and they want to follow up and learn more and follow the company, or connect, how do they do that?
Yeah, so the best is either just our website, cpgradar.com, or I post a lot on LinkedIn, using interesting use cases and scenarios. So on LinkedIn, and my name is easy to remember. Joking. Afif, A-F-I-F, and last name G-H-A, and then O-U-M. Just, connect with me on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. And for everybody listening, just so you know, we'll put the links in the show notes so you can just click on the link and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Afif, again, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. As my son says with his 12 followers on YouTube, smash the subscribe button.
Fantastic. Thank you.